Hello, the Outlands. I'm once again Ian Raven, and you are once again watching Peering at the Defense for what, as far as I can tell, might be one of the last shows of this series. But I think it's going to be a good one. I have as my guest tonight the fifth companion of the Outlands Defense, and someone who I have double killed with ad infinitum for roughly an hour and a half last Warders that I went to. Master Angus, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me, brother.
Oh, you bet. Thank you for coming and chatting with us. So I wanted to just jump right in because you had sent back some really wonderful answers to my questions, and I have, there's a lot to go over. So I figured we'd just start with, the basic that I usually start with, which was what brought you in and what hooked you, because you used a name that I know, haven't met the person, but I know the name. So it made it interesting. So yeah, go ahead and fill me in on what brought you into the group.
Well, so I used to play a D&D game, tabletop role playing with a guy named Matt Bodine at the time. Oh, I hope I'm allowed to say his mundane name. But anyway, if not too late now. He mentioned at one of our sessions, me and a couple of my friends, he's like, yeah, I do this thing called the SCA. You should really come out and check it out. We're doing this Farmington Renaissance Festival here, and you can just come. And it's like, okay, it seems a little weird. Is this LARPing? What are we doing here? Anyway, so I showed up with Argyle, one of the former barons of Fontaine, and Lachlan, a guy who doesn't really play anymore. But we were all good friends. We were all 18 years old. And, and we shot, he had to shoot archery, and he kind of like tried to suit us up in some armor and stuff. And we battled. And it was, to be honest with you, it was everything that we had dreamed of. We just could not believe it. We were hooked, right off the bat. I mean, we'd been dreaming of that sort of thing, medieval combat and things, all of our lives. And so yeah, he hooked us. Tam, former king, Earl Tam. Sir Tam. He wasn't those things then. He was Lord Tam, which around here in Fontaine, we were the Shire of Fontaine, Donsab at that time. And we had 2 or 3 maybe AOA level people here. And so for us, he was Lord Tam. And man, we followed him around. We were basically his we set up his tent. So, but, I got to give the guy some serious props and thanks if he's watching for a number of reasons. But he got us all armored up. I mean, we were poor. I mean, we were 18 years old. I was going to school here at the local community college. I mean, we didn't have any money. And he got us hooked up with armor. I remember him taking his old helmet and he cut it in half, like took an inch of it out and welded it back together so I'd have a helmet to wear, and what
that's love right there.
Yeah, it really is. And that was obviously long before I picked up a rapier. But yeah, he got us in I started fighting. So that's what got me into the SCA, I would say, is him and his influence and my friends to join with, and it was actually armored combat that got me into this game, believe it or not.
Oh, I believe it. It's the gateway drug for so many of us.
Uh-huh.
I've told the story a couple of times that practice for the College of Brimstone was directly between the dining hall and my dorms. And my buddy Carrie and I were walking back from dinner, and all you could hear was just this horrendous banging. And it wasn't until later that we understood the concept of what rattan sounds like hitting a shield. But it's what rattan sounds like hitting a shield in between 3 flat-sided reflective buildings.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, it was a great spot. And it was just amazing. So we were like, what the heck is that? We came and we watched and we were like, all right, there's a couple of guys beating each other with chair legs. This is wild. But yeah, it's a gateway drug for a lot of people. It's, like you said, it's that kind of entry point into the thing you've always fantasized about medieval combat, swords, shields, armor, all of that. That as much as I love rapier way more, it doesn't quite have that same visceral appeal. So I could see where that would have brought you in. Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on the other hand, I didn't want to get my head smacked around, so I very quickly gave up on the idea of armored fighting.
I was just say I probably had several untreated concussions, but no, not a big deal. But yeah, he brought us into his fighting household, the broken blades. We were like it was pretty serious. Like we had to challenge each other to move up in rank and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, neat.
And, yeah, it was pretty cool. Which is incidentally how I picked up a rapier the first time too, because it was actually, now he's Vassal Ivar. Don, he's a defender of the White Scarf. He doesn't really play anymore, but he brought some rapiers out to practice. And back then he was not a White Scarf, and he just had some rapiers, brought them out and kind of putting them in our hands. And we decided to do our challenge, even though we didn't have any of the appropriate gear. I know you're the Kingdom Rapier Marshal now, so I should, this would horrify you if you got this report today.
I don't think it's retroactively effective. I don't think I can get you in trouble for that.
Yeah. Whew. Oh, good. Okay. But yeah, and we did some fighting. We did some really crazy stuff with those rapiers that would now horrify me as a marshal. But anyway, yeah.
I kind of hear the same thing about the first tournament, because that was also half fought with I think fencing foils. They're just wailing on each other. Yeah. No helmets, no protective gear, just some cool medieval clothes and a couple of metal sticks.
There are times that I wish we could go back to that kind of, but
Yeah. Feeling passes sometimes, but yeah, no, I agree. There's a couple of things that I'd love to just go back to. You mentioned something about that in one of your other answers, so we'll get back to that. But so what kept you coming back? Sounds like being made part of a fighting household and having that sort of challenge structure. What else really kept you hanging around?
Well, I really enjoy. I've always been kind of kind of generically service-oriented individual, and I found a place where I could fit in and help. And I love, as most people know, I love heraldry. I love, being an event steward or holding an office and that sort of thing. So honestly, that's kind of what kept me, is that love for service. I found a place where I could fit in and I could contribute and give back. And I would say that's kind of what kept me in and kept me going. And then, obviously a love for rapier. I guess those are the two primary things I would say. I guess that's kind of obvious answer, but
okay.
Yeah.
No, it's sometimes the simple answer is the that's the spot on answer. I know that it's not that dissimilar from what has kept me around. I've had the good fortune to have a bunch of people that I kind of formed around me, that certainly being the sort of, nerdy little fat kid that I was when I was in school, I would never have imagined that walking up to somebody else at an SAA event saying, "Hey, would you like to come and fence, in my group," and have, a dozen people say, "Yeah, that sounds like a great idea." And a dozen people, which became like 30 people, who are all like yourself, service junkies. They're all heralds. They're all, behind the scenes people. We used to joke that if our household left, the East would grind to a halt, because at one point we were like, we had 6 major kingdom offices and a handful of baronial offices. We had champions of several major baronies. There was just going to be a whole lot of stuff that wasn't going to happen anymore if we all went away.
Oh yeah. you just remind me. Obviously, the other thing that kept me around is, like you say, a great group of people. Fontaine is filled with. I know I'm biased, but filled with some of the greatest people. And my households, I'm in several of them, but the House of Sepultura and all those folks. I was student to Master Duncan, Alistair McRae, and he, his guidance also kind of helped me out there. So and gave me an anchor, so that I could stick around and do the thing, So, oh, hey, I think we have a question.
We have two, actually. I'm going to go with the second one first because I think the first one might be a little bit more wordy, I bet. But Ilo would love to know about your first kit.
Is it I wonder if he was wondering about my first rapier or my first heavy armored combat.
What do you got?
All right.
I'd love to hear it.
All right. Well, my first helmet, like I said, was actually pretty cool because it was Tam's old helmet. It was actually pretty, closely fitting. And at that time, I could wear contacts. Long story short, I can't wear anymore. And so it was pretty close. And I could, it wouldn't touch my nose, but it was pretty close. And then I had like this plastic knee and leg armor. And I had this, I had like a chest plate that had some kind of carpet on the inside over the top of like a welder's jacket. And then I did have matching arms that were like leather with the cop, articulated cop. Oh,
fancy,
I guess. Yeah, fancy stuff. Now, my first rapier kit. Oh man, I really hate to rag on it because the person who made it for me, is no longer among us, and she did a fantastic job. It was it was actually somebody else's old. What you called it earlier? The kind of Olympic style with the
like a triplet jacket.
Yeah, like a triplet jacket, but I was too big. Even then, I'm kind of a broad-shouldered guy, and kind of a big dude. And anyway, like it wouldn't fit me. So she like cut it up, and she sewed trigger in between it and all this stuff, and made this ridiculous, crazy jacket that was kind of a Frankenstein monster. And then I had like some like gloves that you'd use for like digging with a shovel, for my hands, and just like high tops and sweats for my pants. It was, but hey, I was fencing, and it was
that's
awesome.
Right.
So
that's right,
and
it's not dissimilar. My first kit had black jeans and slouchy boots that I had found at a local shoe store that I was just like, oh, those look medieval. What kind of medieval? Oh, it doesn't matter. They're just medieval.
Yeah.
And a triplet jacket with with an attempt at a 14th century tunic that went over it that far from not even am I able to wear it anymore. My youngest child has it in their garb bin. And yeah, you could probably fit another half of them in it with them, but none of the rest of us can fit into that.
Right. Hey, and
it's 28, 30 years old now. So,
wow. Yeah. It's seen some action.
Yeah.
That first doublet though, I got to say just real quick that jacket is still in the loaner gear today.
Fantastic.
In fact, my last 3 jackets are all in there as well. Like it's kind of crazy. I'm like, now that I'm in the Baronial Rapier Marshal again, we were going through the stuff. I'm like, hey, it's still there. Cool. Like, hey. But anyway.
No, that's cool. I love that sort of stuff. And at some point I'll want to talk to you about being the local Rapier Marshal, because eventually I need to hear from you.
Yes. I think I sent one a couple months ago saying, yep, we're still not practicing.
Okay.
Yeah, we haven't started up yet. So
okay, cool. That's fine, because no practice means no report. So some guy named Vigilant, Antoine, some guy, would like to know what your favorite tournament format is.
Okay. Again, I'm biased, but I'm gonna go with Fontaine Warders traditional, which is traditionally it is short blade, so 40 inches and under.
Okay.
And
I love that 40 inches is a short blade. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, unless it's a long, right. We cut it off at 40 inches and under. And then the final round is always fought double dagger, or typically it's fought.
Okay.
So more often than not it has been. And that's kind of the normal thing. But I guess if you want to go more traditional, I don't know, like sometimes I kind of like bear pits, and I know that's kind of weird. A lot of people don't, but I'm a very anxious person, and sometimes like if I hold my ground, a few times, I start kind of relaxing and getting into a flow, and when I'm relaxed is when I do my best fighting. When I'm
sure.
uptight and I don't fight as well. So I like to be relaxed, and that's where I can relax the most and just fight and have fun, and it starts to feel like fighter practice, and then suddenly I've got a lot of kills, and it's like, hey, cool, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It was a good time, and you get to fight everybody too. That's the thing I like. I oftentimes after a tournament, like a more typical one, I'll fight with folks off the side anyway, but with bear pit, you're guaranteed to fight everybody at least once.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and some people a whole lot.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And there are some times where it's like, oh man, that person, oh man, he beat me again, and but
you run the line, and then here comes this guy again, and now you're going to sit down. Okay, fine. I'll have to go take it back from him. Yeah, or her. I mean, because goodness knows, there's plenty of people at my old practice who would sit me down, including my own cadet sister. So what do you think of the variant of a bear pit? We like to refer to it as the slippery weasel pit, because we had a number of people who got to a point where you're like, oh God, this person's been in the pit for half an hour. You can include things like how many losses you have. If you have one loss, you get to pick up a secondary. You had 2 losses, you can pick up an offensive secondary. But if you wanted to bring those things right off the bat, that's great. But each time you win in the pit, you put down a level of weapon. So if you took the pit with case, you get to fight with case. If you win again, you have to move down to rigid or non-rigid. And then if you win again, you're back to single. Cool. Which means either one of two things will happen. You're going to sit down because you're going to come up against somebody who's fighting case, or you're going to hold the pit for half an hour with single.
Exactly. I'm like, I want to go straight to the part where I'm single point. So that's cool.
There you go. Nothing wrong with that. And the other one that I always love to suggest to people just to see what they think of it, and it is one of my favorite tournament formats, is it's referred to as the pine box, because the only way out of it is in a pine box. It is a single elimination, wounds retained.
Oh, brutal.
Single elimination, wounds retained, first blood.
Okay.
So you can win your bout by taking your opponent's hand. They now continue in the tournament without that hand until they're done. And probably one of the best things that's ever come out of that is mocking people for double killing.
Right. It's like, this is the first blood tournament. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You had to go that deep into that attack, really?
Right. It's like, man. Oh, man. Yeah. And here in practice, a lot of times, and I got this from House of Sepultura, and I've used it when I was Bronin Rapier Marshal before, and I'm planning on doing it this time, is a reverse bear pit occasionally, and the theory is it allows those people who need more practice to get more practice, and I mean, to a degree, usually, I think that we usually said that you stay 5 times and then move on. So, okay. Yeah. But the loser basically the stays, but that's in practice, obviously. Now that
so that's you you win, you sit. Okay.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I'll go get back in line. Yes, please.
Yeah. The only other cool tournament that I would, normally try and foist on people, it's not even mine really. It's Master Collins in the East, is a body parts tournament. So you either have dice or cards. We made up a whole set of cards that have the body parts pictured. So at the beginning of each match, Marshall fans out the cards. You pick one. You look at that. Your opponent doesn't see it. So I have drawn arm. You draw back, leg. So your victory condition is now you have to strike that target, or if it's not a killing blow, you have to strike that target before you kill them.
Ooh.
So like you'd get, oh, I drew head again. Okay. So I come out of the gate throwing for your head, and something's up. So, of course, I game that my way, is that I'm going for anything but the target that I have on my card. I'll eventually get there.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Yeah, I do like that. And I do like the random ones where you roll dice and determines what forms you take too. But I'm stealing the one you mentioned. I'm totally gonna do that. That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it's the body parts tournament is a lot of fun, because especially if you happen to be, if you're fighting a reputation for having a particular target. I think why Colin brought that up was he was fighting the reputation of being a hand sniper. It's not that he was; it was just what was closest to him, and his method of fencing was the least amount of effort for the most amount of gain. So if your hands are that much closer than your head, he's never going for your head,
right?
Until your hands are out of the way.
Sure. I have to admit that I've been doing more of that lately as I've been getting older, just for something fun to do, as a small target, and do that.
Sure.
Of course, now that I've been fencing all that much during the pandemic, I've done no official fighting, of course.
Oh no, there's no official fighting that's been being done.
But I've done very little backyard drills either. I haven't done any.
Sure.
So I will have to see when things come back. I don't know where. I'm going to have to ease back into it and see how things are looking.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, not everybody's fencing partners are in their pods. I was kind of lucky that my student was in my pod, so we could continue to do drills, which was great, because you don't want to be that year and a half in fencer and then immediately stop and never do anything. Mm-hmm. Which was one of the cool things about having everybody doing lessons online, was that sort of person could continue their studies, even though not going to a practice, which was pretty great.
Yes.
My method for dealing with this was that I decided to go with a weapon that you might consider a dagger, I guess, if 40 is a short sword.
No.
My 133 sword is 36 inches from the end of the pommel to the tip. So it's very short. I keep playing with a slightly longer blade, but it doesn't balance right. So I've decided that what I need to do is get that much closer to everybody.
There you go.
Like hand shots? Yeah, I suppose, but I might as well hit you in the spleen.
Right. Yeah, I for cut and thrust, I use a mortuary sword that's, I don't know how long it is, but it's got to be maybe 30 inches. It's pretty short.
That sounds great.
Yeah. So, but
because in a former life, I was from the southern region of the East Kingdom, where 30-inch blades are just something you do. So you've got this arms race of people getting, Darkwood's selling a 48. And they're like, great. Okay.
I'll get it.
I have a 30.
Yeah, there you go.
A 14-inch dagger.
There's I don't think you would mind if I mentioned his name. So, Master Esteban down the road. Yeah, he'll give anybody who's fighting with anything longer than a 37-inch sword, he usually gives a hard time to. And like I say, in Fontaine, normally most people in Fontaine, we have 37-inch swords. That's what we fight with. I mean, everyone kind of fights with the same. I'm one of the few who has a spear, but I don't use it in singles typically.
Sure.
When I travel, like, a lot of times, like when I was traveling a lot, I'd go up to Kerta and I would actually use, get a great opportunity for some long blade practice, and I'd bring it out a little bit more. But typically I save it for melee. Honestly, I just use it to do the shoot across at the angles kind of a thing. So, and I don't know if you know this about me or not, but I'm probably in the minority on this, but but I don't know. Anyway, I am a rapier melee fanatic. I don't know if you knew that about me.
I did not.
Yeah,
I did not. So I can file that away.
Fun. Yeah, you totally should. I have so much fun, and a lot of that is getting to fight with other members of the barony that you train with, and I love the camaraderie and the kingdom and going to war practices and Tam, who I might have mentioned earlier, ding, he trained me, from an early age, Estrella and all these. Wars are about melee. They're not, in his mind, they're not about tournaments. They're about melee. And and so anyway, and that kind of stuck. I just love melee, heavy rapier. I have to admit, as I've gotten older, I like rapier melee a lot better because it's easier to get up.
Yeah. A little less impactful most of the time.
But anyway.
Yeah, we have another question. Again, Ilo has a question that is directly related to melee. What's your most memorable moment in melee combat or at war?
Oh, God. I could pick just one. I'm going to give you two. Two for the price.
I'll take two. I mean, hey, I was going to get around to asking you this sort of question eventually, so we might as well do it now.
I love it. Hey, so I fought at the event that I was offered to join the Order of Defense was Penzik, and I was doing. I made a deal with then King Tam that he would fight all the rapier melees if I fought all the heavy melees with him.
Oh wow!
And so we kind of did that thing, and but Catherine, our queen, was big into rapier, and in fact, I'd actually gotten the wonderful opportunity to train her back here because she was from Fontaine, and we went out there and I fought with her and Gervelle actually. Catherine was between us. Gervelle was her protector. God, don't quote me on this. She was the protector of the Queen's heart at the time, and so it was. I was on Catherine's left, and Gervelle was on her right. And our queen was not, she wanted to go. Like, we were going forward, and thank God, we were not going to let anybody touch our queen. And I don't know, there was some, like a ray of sunlight shone down on us that day, man. And our queen was not touched. And that was probably the best fighting I've ever done in my life, to be honest with you. So that's probably number one. I'm tied for two. I also had the honor of joining Her Majesty Anna McTaggart on the Reaper Field, which was super fantastic. And finally, I'll say, so the Fontaine troops, Gaston or Gatlin, as you may or may not know him, Argyle, McGregor, my provost Soren. He wasn't my I don't know. I don't think I was White Scarf at that time. But anyway, we'd been training together hard, and there was a town battle of some kind in Aitenveld at Estrella War, and we held this building. We were the last one standing in our army. And I know everyone has the fish stories and whatever, but I swear we killed half of the freaking Aitenveld army rushing into that. Like, we just formed a killing pocket, and it was actually Argyle and Gatlin.
Like you do.
Yeah, like you do. And we were just like, and then behind us in that scenario, artillery, rubber band guns and stuff were allowed. And
Sure.
My provost, Soren, at least at that time, was super into rubber band guns, and he, you know, he liked the guns, the musketeering, and all that stuff. And so we would be fighting, and every once in a while a gun would show up over our shoulder, and blam, and blast one of them. And we did end up winning that scenario, or that, you know, I think it was 1 out of 3. So at least we won that one, and so that's another favorite moment. So sorry, I don't mean to go on. You got me excited talking about.
No, that's the
30
point
minutes
here.
for the laughs. Oh no.
No, the point here is we want to talk to you. We want to hear what you've got. You know, because my go-to for that is I have a long story and I have a short story, and the short story is just I killed more people in a melee. I'm not a melee guy. I don't do well at it. I've never enjoyed it, but I did kill a whole bunch of people during a hold, because the discussion had been like, in the last hold, you may not discuss tactics. And we're like, okay, how much can we discuss? And like, look, you can talk to your people, but just you can't discuss what you're going to do as soon as I tell you you're, you know, lay on again. And we're like, okay, great. So there is another global hold at, you know, I think it was a town battle at Penzik, and we had been facing this way, and to assume a safe position, we had turned slightly to see what was going on around us. And the guy on my right, one of the guys in my household, Don Griffith, turns and sees Blaise von Bremen from the Midrealm, who had been behind a wall and had stepped out just as they'd called hold. So now we are staring at the next thing that's going to happen is we're going to engage this line.
Mm-hmm.
And he turns and goes, "Oh crap, it's Blaise." And I went, "Shh, oh crap, it's Blaise counts as tactics," and dropped 4 marshals and 17 people in our general circle, because apparently, "Oh shit, it's Blaise" is tactics was the funniest thing they'd heard all day. But yeah, that was, I mean, what are you going to do? You turn and you say the first thing that comes to your mind, which is, "Oh boy, here's this thing we're going to face. I can't tell you about it." And he really didn't even give it any thought. It was just, there it is. And I went, "Oh, we can't say that. That's tactics."
Yeah, I love it. That's hilarious. Nice.
Yeah, so it's like most of my fun stories at war don't really involve melee, although a couple of them do. At least one of them is woods battle related.
Oh yes,
I know people really love woods battle stories.
I do.
Because I have the 2 good woods stories. The one is where I know Blaise von Bremen from, because before we had kind of soothed things over, we were a little antagonistic, because it was the first war that we had over 40-inch blades available, and they were legal.
Okay.
So we're keeping a line pretty far back towards our flag, and here comes Blaise's group, and he's leading the vanguard, and he has their banner pole, and he is just charging. And my martial voice came out, and I said, I pointed at him, because I've got single for some reason. I pointed at him and I said, "You'd best stop running before you engage." He runs up to within engagement distance and stops, skids on the leaf litter, and I stop thrusted. And his eyes got real big. He parried 3 times and hit me from 35-inch range with a 40.
Oh, no.
The story goes that everybody at that end of the woods, regardless of how far away they were, suddenly went, "Oh, what just happened? And why is Ian angry about it?" Because I over dad voiced him that you were too close to throw that shot. And then I went off and rezzed. And it wasn't until later, when we were armoring down, that I pulled my triplet jacket off, and my Penzik medallion was bent and jammed into my skin. So we were like, "Oh, hey, yeah, that shot was real hard."
Yeah.
But the better story is how many Eastern ogres does it take to run the woods battle? because I had gotten, we had a line, we had another unit, and we had both gotten kind of wiped out, and we straggled back to res point. And myself and Don Pasquale looked around. We had 2 or 3 people, and we said, fine, we're commandeering you. It's a new unit. We're going. And we headed back out and immediately hit a line of 5 people. Played with that for a little bit, eventually whittled them down, kill pocketed, and said, all right, how many do we have left? All right, there's 3 of us. So there's me and Don Pasquale, and I don't remember who else was with us at that point, but the next thing that happens is the vanguard of the North Shield Royal Unit fades out of the tree line. And we're like, okay, great. So we're going to fight them. We back up, and another line fades out of the other tree line.
Ooh.
And we looked at this, we looked at each other, and I said, I'll go left, you go right. And he goes, yeah, let's surround them. And we both took off running. And we basically rolled the entire line in on itself because they were all standing there going, surround? Wait, how many of them are there? And meanwhile, we've got the one like non-scarf fencer who is standing there going, wiped them all out. The Royal Vanguard comes in. I play with that. I have already lost my left hand, so I'm right-handed with a 40, just frantically parrying, pop the one guy in the face, parry, guy steps in with a big shield. I take his foot, kill the king, kill him. I get from like 30 feet away, come on, stop playing with your food. We regroup, we grab a couple more people, and we start running up the line, the edge of the field. Mm. We get people come out, we kill them. And we get some people out, and we kill them. And we get all the way down to the mid-realm flag. There are 80 people waiting for us, standing around the mid-realm flag, who have not fought the entire battle because they've been guarding the flag. They've been owning us everywhere else. Mm-hmm. So we get down there, and there's 80 people who all just go, we got to fight. Can't. We all are like, oh. And then 80 little flasks come out, and we're all just like, hey, come on, all right, we're done fighting, so now we're drinking buddies again. Yeah. And that was the wildest thing, because normally I don't get to do that sort of fun melee thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just come on, anytime you can say to an opposing line, let's surround them, and have it actually work, that's a good day.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely.
There's awesome. 2 of you.
Yeah, right. Nice.
So you had mentioned, since we have a little bit of time left, you had mentioned you wanted to talk about some of the history around the defense and some of the ceremonies and traditions. And myself being a junkie for that sort of thing, and not knowing a lot of what this kingdom did when it was, when they were building that, I'd love to hear some of that if you've got some.
Sure. So I was not, as you know, I was not one of the premiers here in the Outlands. However, I totally got a front row seat by pure luck, because I'm a herald. And when Hrothgar and Ygritte made their first, they made the premiers, Tam and Catherine were the heirs to the throne at that time. And so immediately following the event, which was in Fontaine, by the way, which kind of cool.
Fantastic.
Where Doma and Govanen were called up, and God, I hope I'm getting that right. I think that's right. Anyway, I've slept since then. Don't hold me accountable, anybody who's watching. This is the memory.
You have a 1 in 3 chance of getting those names, right?
Anyway, regardless, immediately following the event, because I was going to be stepping up as Blue Iris Herald for Tam and Catherine, their majesties at the time created a group that had their Blue Iris, Bohemian, and then Tam and Catherine's, because it was a very much a kind of unified. I guess their majesties and the Royal Highnesses were in pretty serious talks about it, beforehand and whatnot. But anyway, I got to come in on the ceremonies, and assist with the coronation ceremony piece specifically, and also even was kind of consulted a little bit, or it was for their personal ceremonies. It was more like I got to read what they came up with, which was excellent. But yeah, sorry, I'm getting a work message. I'm going to try to ignore that. But yes, but in the ceremony, it was really interesting. I think it's okay if I talk about all this kind of stuff, but basically,
I'd love you to. Yeah,
right. Yeah. Now we can record it, and there'll be a trial. So they were talking about what to use for their regalia for the Order of Defense in the coronation ceremony, and I was of the mind at that time, and I'm glad that things worked out the way they did. But at the time, I thought that we should use the sword that the protector of the Queen's heart holds. And I would butcher its, drawing a blank on its name. I bet Antoine can tell us. I'm drawing a blank on the name. But anyway, that sword was what we were going to use, or what I was talking about. And it was actually His Royal Majesty at the time who kind of said, hey, that sword is cool and that it is important we understand to the rapier community, but we wanted to use something that has been a part of all these ceremonies for this entire time. And hey, the Pelicans are already carrying the signet rings and the Great Seal, so why don't we split those up and give one of those to the defense, so that we've had something that's already kind of steeped in all this Outlands history. And so that's the story. So if you watch all the coronation ceremonies, that's why we get to bring the seal forward, and it has that history. It's pretty cool. And then, there was a lot of talk, about the defense, and, early on, especially, it was all, we were standing for equity was the big thing, and it's still, I don't know where we ended up landing on this, but we spoke for equity and all this. And at one point, we were asked by the Crown to find something else because people were kind of confused by equity, and so we actually kind of sort of agreed to. Those of us at the time sort of talked about valor instead, because everyone could more understand that. But I think we kind of go back and forth between equity and valor a little bit. And then the other thing, with traditions, a lot of people, believe it or not, and I think maybe part of it was that I was a Pelican, but a lot of people were asking me about, okay, what are the traditions of the order going to be? And so that was something that we were discussing a lot early on. And I still think that some of that's obviously still being found out. We're still kind of figuring some of this stuff out. But one of the ones that kind of stuck was being armed for coronation. When we go up to give our oaths and stuff, we're supposed to try to be armed. That's what we decided on. It's like it's not you have to be armed. It's like try to have your sword or whatever. So that was kind of a deal. And I haven't been around as much, so I'm not entirely sure that that's kept on. But I was really pushing it for a while. Every coronation, I'm like, hey, don't forget your weapons, guys. Come on, So right. that was kind of one of the things, Well,
the funny thing is, I can't tell you. I have no clue if everybody behind me was armed, because there's a certain amount of haze from, they talk about fog of war or what you can see on the map in a video game. Yeah. I have no clue. I know that there were people immediately behind me, but I have no idea what was going on there. Right. But I know that I was, I got to be elevated with my own sword, which was pretty neat, because I had picked it up from Darkwood that day.
Awesome.
So
Cool.
when Johann is holding this thing aloft and speaking about what the sword represents, he had started at the tip and was kind of working his way down the sword as he said his piece. And he got to the ricasso, which has 3 ermines pierced through it. And he gets to here, and there was the tiniest little hitch in what he was saying. And he finished, and he leans down and goes, "This is really cool." And I had this moment of fear that I wasn't getting my sword back from the king.
Please, can I have my weapon back now, please? That is awesome. Oh man, I hear you on that fog. That's for sure. Like, whoa. Oh,
Yeah. So I can't tell you if everyone was armed. I think it's a martial peerage. It makes perfect sense.
Yeah. And since swords have been used, I think they've been used in every ceremony in some capacity. Obviously, I bet. Yeah, I think most people written it into their ceremony to have the sword,
Sure.
or and my wife bought me mine, and I used it proudly. Yeah, when I did mine. But anyway, sorry. Okay, cool. So what else we got?
Well, we have about 12 minutes is what we've got.
Oh, geez.
No, I mean, this is great. And one of the things that I'm always worried about is I'm not going to be able to, find that thing that gets my guest to talk. And I knew we were going to have it because, I looked at some of your answers and was like, oh yeah, I absolutely, I had asked you about what you think of the order of defense that isn't maybe common knowledge. And you had 2 specific things, one of which you'd mentioned, which was, about the, carrying the Great Seal. And the other one was about skill level.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was just pulling up the document. Like, what did I,
what did I say?
Yeah, exactly. I think, one of the things I think that people might forget, and maybe I'm being kind of a dork about this, but when we're elevated, it's not like magically our skill level increases by 10 points and suddenly
Right.
I'm amazing. I'm still, we're still the same guy that you beat in the last tournament. We're still the guy you killed in the melee. We're still the, I think some people, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if you've experienced it or not, but some people almost fight you a little different. Like they think, oh, no, don't do that. Kill us, destroy us. You killed us yesterday. You can kill us today. Doesn't matter if we have a collar on our neck. Go out. In fact, kill as many of us as you can. That's my advice to you, because you can't. We're all just people.
Oh yeah, I like that people go, oh, I don't know if I can I can beat Ian Raven. I'm like, oh, I assure you, it's not that hard.
It is but anyway.
No, but you get, and that ties into the other question, which is, what do you miss from before you were somebody? Because for sure, I have a slightly larger, I've seen this, I have a slightly larger effect of, I'm going to stand there with a buckler that is this big and a sword that is inside of a yard long, and people are going to look at me and go, I don't trust like that because of this. Because if you're going to stand there wearing this and having a dagger and a candy dish, you got to know something that I don't.
Right.
I'm like, well, yeah, maybe I do, but I've been doing this for 25 years. That's the only reason I know something that you don't. It's not because I have this on.
Right.
And in fact, I'm pretty sure you know something I don't, and I want to know that because I want to find out about it. I want you to teach me that, because that way I know what you're bringing to the game, so that I can look at you for future elevation. I can say, this guy's got an interesting take. Oh, you want to learn something about that? I'm going to send you over to this guy, or this. I have never seen anybody move like this woman has moved. You want to do more than your basic footwork, you're going to go talk to her. That's the sort of thing that I want to know. And I assure you, it's not that hard to hit me.
I don't know about that, but Well, we hit each other a lot.
We did. We just we didn't stop anything the other one was throwing.
Defense.
Now, our calibration was better than Seamus and I, because Seamus and I did that to each other, and we both separated our ribs.
Oh no!
Yeah, it was like my second Battlemore. It was my second Battlemore. We went out and fought, and I was like, I'm so excited to fight this, similarly high level left-handed guy, and we're going to go out and we're going to do our thing. And we both saw the opening that the other one had offered. It was the same opening, and we both went, "Oh, I'm going for that." Did we close the line? No, we did not. Did we clear the blade? No, we did not. Did we just lunge at each other just straight in? Yes, we did.
Right? Oh, man.
Do I still have 5 ribs that separate very easily? Yes, I do. So, did I learn something? Maybe I want to close that line.
Yeah.
So, we got a couple more minutes. I have a couple other things that I'll normally ask, but what I'd really like to know is, we had talked earlier a little bit about, you're describing your fighting style, and I've been attempting to, periodify what I do, and your description of what you do is Street Fighter. So I wanted to have you talk about that a little bit.
Sure. Well, honestly, most of us here in Fontaine kind of are. We were largely self-taught. There wasn't, I think, Carrick actually, I don't know. Do you know?
I know Carrick. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. He Master Carrick, I should say. But he lived down here, and I think he actually got Rapier going at one time before I started playing. But then he left, and it just kind of went away. But nobody here really knew anything about it. We just kind of picked some up at that practice, and we started fighting. And so we kind of picked up, I will admit, we picked up probably some bad habits. And
we're not going to say the words genuine street thugs. No.
Yeah, exactly. Right. But we did, we had several influences, I guess. One, the House of Sepultura. I guess most of my fighting, I don't know what to say, style, I guess, came from the House of Sepultura, because Master Esteban used to have practices in his basement. And, this is obviously not anything official or anything like that, but we'd fight in tank tops and shorts, and we'd go out there and we would just fight. And Esteban, I don't know if you know this about him or not, but he has a troubled past, and he's been stabbed in real life, more than once. And for real. And so some of that kind of comes across in his fighting. Like, he fights like his life depends on it, sometimes. Sure. He's a great teacher, and he can teach anybody. That's one of the things I love about the man. He's a fantastic teacher. He can tell anybody, it doesn't matter their skill level. He can see what they're doing right and wrong, and he's really good at that. But anyway, we'd fight, we Sepulturas and Fontaine members would fight down in his basement and just go at each other. And then I guess somewhere along the lines, we're often called, I don't know if you know this or not, but we're sometimes called Scola South or Domus South, if you will, because at the time, Domus Marius was really Scola. Don Tristan grabbed a bunch of his guys and gals, and they came down here to Fontaine, and they straightened us up a little bit. They cleaned up our forms and taught us about, these things called footwork, and and stuff like that.
Funny that.
Yeah. But, and kind of helped us undo some of the really bad habits. But one thing has kind of remained, and that is that we are street fighters. Now, we did at one time, we actually had somebody living here in our group that was from Italy. And,
nice.
And I think that I really should know this probably, but I know that some of the material and stuff was available, but we just didn't really know about it, and we were looking things up online, and we found Italian, rapier, from period masters in Italian, and we'd give it to our friend from Italy, and she would translate it for us, and we would try to.
Oh, super cool!
And but we, at that time especially, and it would be different now, obviously, but because people have kind of figured out what they mean and the nuance and how to, but we couldn't really get it to work with our sport fencing or street fighting at the time, so, but yeah, I would say, I don't think you could probably be a member of the Order of Defense and not have studied at least a little bit, but by and large, we kind of a street fighter style, and we have a saying that, keep what works and dump the rest.
Right. I was gonna bring that up because that's a distinctive sentence that and somebody had just asked that on Ask the Masters of Defense, was what style works best in tournaments? And I was like, that's a really big question. And
it depends on what you're at.
Third comment was essentially, look at everything that's out there and study from people who you respect and ditch everything that does not do anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then what is left is your style. And I went, oh, well, that's kind of how I ended up doing what I do, but just less viscerally. Because I started with, I had one teacher who was themselves learning defense and had figured that the easiest way to do that was to set up a class and have her teach, all the people in the barony. And certainly I was voted least likely to succeed. I was the class clown. So that was one of those things that, I had a couple of people I had to go directly contact and say, hey, yeah, I'm going to be a Master of Defense. And I know you're not expecting that.
Oh man.
But yeah, it's absolutely, you start with, here is what our basics are. And it was very much, foil oriented. I moved, she set me up with somebody else who happened to be inarguably one of the best fencers in the kingdom. But a machine. He was just 20, 30 years already of epee experience. So everything that I did shifted very dramatically to the epee. And then somebody introduced me to Palace Armada, which is a very late period source. But if you look at what the author describes, it's very much a manual for generic SCA fencing.
There you go. Hey.
And once I got that, I could start to understand that manual, and I could start to actually bring some period stuff in, which panned out nicely when I think it was my second Sordid Affair. I was not a Master of Defense, but you all thought I was worth most period style for that day. Blew me away because I was going, no, I don't think I'm doing anything more period than that person or her or him over there who killed me. And we were like, no, we know what we were looking at and we're good with that. I was like, okay, thank you.
All right.
Stop arguing with that.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, no, I liked that specifically that comment of keep what works and discard everything that's extraneous at that point. Which in itself is a period concept because at the simplest level, that's how you carve marble.
Right.
You start with a block and you carve away anything that doesn't give itself over to a general air of the sculpture you're creating.
Absolutely. Who I feel, well, there's too many to list, I guess, but Siegfried obviously and Doman do a really good job of kind of I feel like they do a really good job of doing that sort of thing. Can we go a few little longer? Yeah, I wanted to let you I wanted to let you get through what you were saying there because far be it from me to stop you from. No. That was pretty much all I was going to say. But yeah, we're street fighters here for the most part. And Duncan Alistair McRae just moved back here from Dragonspine, and he brings that too as well. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to fight him. But.
I have never gotten a chance to fight him. I have stood near him on a list. But I have not gotten a chance to fight him. What I would love once we open up and people are starting to be comfortable again is I would very much like to do some more practices between our groups.
Yes.
Because even if we have to meet in Uray or something, in the middle, we're not all that far from each other, and I had actually been talking to Your Excellencies and Roland about trying to get some southern western area stuff together to do some, because we're in areas where it gets a little insulated.
Right.
And I'd love to have a little bit more cross-pollination between the three groups, because it just makes for better fighters.
Definitely.
And more fencing is better.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, it can get insular, and sometimes it can kind of. I've seen it halt progress before, especially if you're not traveling, and if you're in an insular group, you can get really good at beating a specific person.
Oh yes.
And so then you're like really surprised. I've seen this with some of my guys. Like, oh man, I got where I was getting pretty good against Angus. I'm going to own this tournament. It can happen. So yeah, you're absolutely right. The more fighters, the better. And I think it would be awesome to do some cross, or load up a car and head up to Drakhamor, isn't that where that's?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And sorry, my work is exploding, and they keep trying to call me, and I'm like, nope.
Yeah. Give me a couple minutes here.
Yeah. Exactly.
No, I would absolutely love to do that, especially with the weather being kind of what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's still sort of good.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be, a great thing to take advantage of that. But we'll have to see how, reopening goes. But I would love to do that, because I want to get back down to your area some more, because I did have a ball fighting your people. We did very much enjoy Warders when we got down there, and the fact that it was followed so closely by nothing,
I know,
was such a disappointment, because we got to go down there and we were like, oh, this is really cool. We met a bunch of people who we did get to see, we got to see a few more times.
Yeah.
But and then shortly after that, now we get to go to events as a pair of peers, as opposed to a peer and not a peer. And we're looking forward to we are looking forward very much to being able to attend events as a pair of peers.
Yeah.
And anything that has that sort of outside of our local group kind of effect is something we're looking forward to. So, and we'll be taking it slowly, because not all of us are comfortable with peopling yet.
Oh, right.
But I know that there's a lot of people out there who are just absolutely gung-ho to get swords back in their hands.
Oh yeah. I'm definitely one of those. I'm ready to fight. Like I said, we haven't started this yet, but spoiler alert, it's going to be soon.
Yeah. Well, I mean, within the next week, we're into officially opened.
Right. Yeah.
So now I don't mind. I've put off anything that we were doing here. Certainly while I was figuring out, I have to figure out who's going to be, our local marshal, because I can't be it.
Right. That's
can't report to myself.
Yes. I kind of did that one time. It's not good. It's no good. Don't do it.
No, there's a chain of command, and it falls apart when you're going to, you got a problem with the local marshal, and you're going to bump it up to the kingdom marshal, who's sitting in the same chair.
Yeah. Let me put on my
let me put on my different hat. But yeah, no, we're definitely we're looking to start up again. What we hope to do, especially for cross-pollination, is we hope to get some more heavy and rapier practices happening at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And if we can really get everything going, we'll get ANS out there, because one of the best things that I've ever seen is an ANS demo for practice.
Yeah, definitely. Oh yeah. Well, and here in Fontaine, we tend to do that. In fact, most of our rapier fighters are also heavy fighters, and most of our heavy fighters are also rapier fighters, and are also archers, because otherwise you won't have anybody to have fun with. Basically, you have to, So we actually have an award here called the Order of the Hydra, and it's for doing all three. Well, we're doing all three, meaning rapier, armored combat, and and archery. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry, I have an unwanted call that is leaving a voicemail for me out loud. Apologize here.
No. That's the sign of the times,
Yeah.
Well,
it's it's as good a time as any at that point to say I have very much enjoyed chatting with you.
Likewise, can I give a quick shout out to my students real quick?
Absolutely, please do.
Gatlin Gaston, Kina, Soren, the one that's in abeyance, you know who you are.
I have one of those also for the same reason.
And okay, that's good. Okay. All right.
All right. Well, so thank you for being my guest on what is likely to at least be the last part of this series. As we open up, we have less reason to be doing just virtual stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for chatting with me. Thank you to the tech crew for making this always run as smoothly as possible. And thank you to the Outlands for watching whatever it was that this turned out to be. And like I said, since this is going to be unlikely to happen again soon, we'll see. Maybe it will. But until such time as it does, keep your guards up and keep the pointy end in the other person.